Woo! Exploragonians! Exploragonians! Look over there! It's something! Let's go see it! Exploragonian!
Why is your head like shaking like a bobblehead?
Shaking like a bobblehead, because I'm a Funko. I'm a Funko Pop.
What's a Funko?
Yeah, you know, the little bobbleheads. Pop culture bobbleheads, Katie. Pop culture bobbleheads.
Am I like 80? Like I have no idea what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah, Katie. Well, Katie turns 80 this year.
Astoria.
Yeah, that Rihanna song from 1945. Get over it, Grandma.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm done.
Time for a nap.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So you have a thing for crunch bars.
I would not say that I have a thing for crunch bars, but I like the word crunch,
What's
but I don't like crunch bars. But Jordan confessed that he would rub out the word crunch.
I don't think you should say rub out.
What did you say?
Well, I would rub out the word crunch. I was maybe a form of child abuse. Like, I just remember getting a crunch bar, and I don't know, 90s kids, chime in. Late 80s kids, millennials. I feel like crunch bars were, like, way too big than they should have been.
Aren't they just the same size as like a Hershey's bar?
I would never eat a full Hershey's bar in one sitting because they're, like, you know, they're kind of sectioned off. A crunch bar has none of that. It gives you the vibe that you need to eat the whole damn thing. And
So your solution was to not eat it, but just to...
I would take some bites, and then I'd get kind of like, you know, exhausted halfway through eating this chocolate bar. But yeah,
Did you like it?
No,
What is that?
I don't.
Like a rice?
I think there's
crispy?
I think there's rice in there. It's like a rice bit.
Yeah, what is the crunch?
It's Dreams,
Who makes crunch?
probably Nestle,
Probably.
the devil themselves.
Okay.
Welcome back to Exploragonians, a travel podcast.
Wow. I'm Katie.
I'm not.
He's Jordan.
He is today.
And today we're talking
Astoria.
do. Why is it like Disturbia?
Yeah,
but
but
it's Astoria.
We have sung Astoria to the tune of Rihanna's classic song Disturbia for as long as I can remember.
Does she know?
She should. That there was that concert where she pulled me on stage and she and I did a duet singing Astoria.
Right, and you taught it to her.
It's a 4-syllable name, Astoria, that ends with an ia, Disturbia.
It's true.
It's
Everyone
destiny.
should do this.
This is officially the tune of Astoria.
We should pitch it to the chamber.
Astoria. Why the chamber?
I don't know.
You are
The
just
city-
you're
the city-
associating chamber with its power in Tillamook. Chambers don't have power.
Stop
outside.
saying Tillamook.
Tillamook.
This
Tillamook.
is not. It's like stop.
If you say Tillamook 3 times in a row in the mirror, a big hunk of cheese appears behind you.
Can you eat it?
You shouldn't. It's
Okay.
not that kind of cheese.
Whoa.
So this is like the first time Katie's had like a ton of energy in a while.
Oh, at least a month.
I think it's that September energy.
I think it's Katie's lethargic every day.
Not every day.
And this could be a medical issue, but we could talk about it.
Yeah, sure. What's going on?
Well, I don't know. But today I woke up and I decided to eat an egg, and that's going to give me an energy boost. And then I had an amazing latte that you made me.
Me?
Moi. Well, not moi. How do I say moi but you?
My French is not good. Moi also sounds like moi.
So anyway, yeah, I have energy, but now it's taking forever. I feel like my energy is on the decline.
No, just get that harness some Nicki Minaj energy.
A la freak. A la freak.
Does she say a la freak? 'Cause it
I
sounds
don't
like,
know.
It sounds like a la mode the way you're singing it.
A la.
Yeah, like a la freak.
Maybe she just says la freak.
I think it's
know.
la freak. I don't think it's a la freak.
I think looking at you, I do the remix.
Oh, that's good.
To me, it's a la freak. Anyway.
Or like you're a freak for Allah.
But, right, Rick James. I think it's just la freak.
Mm.
Anywho, today, let's chit chat. Astoria. Do you know Astoria?
I feel like I should respond in song because today feels like a musical.
Okay, well, do you know it?
I do know Astoria.
Astoria, Oregon.
So Astoria, Oregon, do you know any fun facts about Astoria, Oregon? I looked up that it is the oldest city in Oregon.
And the first settlement.
First American settlement. We know that there were people in Astoria
That's
who
also
were
true.
not white colonial bozos.
That's true.
So,
All right.
in terms of the United States, an American settlement, it was the first west of the Rockies. Which I think when I was younger, I used to think west of the Rockies was like a really important designation. But then after we went on our road trip, I realized that the Rockies are actually pretty close. So
Yeah. So, right. West of the Rockies, a couple states over.
I mean, do you feel when you're in Astoria that it's like an older place?
Well, I think, I was going to say, I felt like it was a grungier place growing up. I feel like it was rougher. And so, like, I don't know if I equate that to be like I'm in Astoria and be like, oh, this is a really old city. But in terms of other areas on the Oregon coast, well, I feel like sometimes the Oregon coast just has like a grungy 101 vibe.
Well, that's true. But the Astoria is different because it's not really on like the Pacific Ocean. It's like on the Columbia River. So it's like right there. It's like near the mouth of the river.
Yeah, I mean, so there's definitely a change. And there's this like beautiful, magnificent bridge that takes you across the water to Washington.
The Astoria Megler, which was only built in like the 60s, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's a fairly new bridge. I mean, before then.
Tugboat?
Yeah, tugboat. Everyone just like get in the tugboat, and then they would be that you'd wrap the tugboat around your waist, and the tugboat would just pull you across.
We should do that.
You'd have to like try to swim.
I would like that little wiggle you did.
But so you also have like a pretty deep connection with Astoria because of your grandfather.
Well, I had heard my grandpa say quite a few times about how he used to he was fishing in Astoria for a summer, and they had...
I think he did it 2 summers.
Oh, was that what he said? And there was like with the horses. Wow,
He would drive
a team of horses.
So they'd cast a huge net to catch as many like salmon as they could, and so which when you think about it in today's like mentality, you're like maybe we shouldn't take a giant net to catch all these fish because maybe we're overfishing.
And then he would talk about like a floating barn, which I feel like only recently I was like, wow, it's like quite a visual. Like, oh, the floating barn.
Again, this is like 1939, 1940 is when he was out here doing that. But yeah, I can't picture a floating barn in the middle of the Columbia.
Well, it was definitely before the bridge.
Well, that's true.
As we've established.
Yeah, and so he would drive a team of horses, and they'd pull these fish in, and then because of I could make up like what they did with the fish, but there was like a ton of canneries in Astoria, and it's also just like a really important like port city.
Well, right. So now these days you can pull into Astoria and maybe see some cruise ships, which is quite a look.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I think one of the first times I think it was a Disney cruise ship.
Yeah. I mean, to my naive eye, I was like, what is that? Like, I don't even think I'd ever seen a cruise ship up close. Like,
right, because you and I, we're not like cruise folk. Like our families don't. I mean, I think if you get in the weeds enough, someone's gone on a cruise, but that's just not what we do.
Right. I mean, like, I don't even know. Like, cruises take out of Florida and maybe
I think
Seattle?
you can.
I'm not really
think
sure.
You can get cruises in Seattle, like San Diego. I think that's also.
Yeah, so, I mean, the point is that we don't see a lot of cruise ships up here where we're at.
Yeah, so it was very, like, it felt like Titanic. Like, I felt like Jack, and I was like, I'm going to get on that ship, and Rose is not going to make room for me on a door.
Wow. And then sometimes you see people walking around because, like, the cruise ships will dock. You'll see people walking. They have their little name tags.
Which is always very strange, especially when, with what we picture Astoria as. We grew up in a time where it was, like, a little grungier, a little rougher. And you're like, why are you people walking around here?
And right, and like a lot of empty canneries. And so some of these have been given new life. Some are, like, now trendy breweries. And, yeah, and I don't know when the cruise ship started coming to Astoria. But, yeah, downtown Astoria has seen a huge, I would say like a huge revitalization, like that there's just new life there and a really good energy. And yeah, so Astoria is a lovely place to visit.
I'm painfully jealous of Astoria. Like, just what that community has been able to do to, like, fix up all their old historic buildings, to pump a lot of really good life into it, to, like, really get a bunch of really interesting industry there that encourages people to visit. Like, Katie and I visit because of all these, like, interesting amenities they have. And not to mention that it's beautiful all along the river. They have like the Astoria River Walk, which goes from like downtown Astoria, and you can take it all the way like along the river, and it's like well lit in places, not well lit in others, but it's just a really beautiful area.
And a thriving sea lion community.
Which, that's par for the course for the Oregon coast. If you find like any sort of like rocky outcropping, those sea lions will gather, man.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of like giant. They're like giant rats sometimes because, like, sea lions, if that population isn't controlled, like, they'll eat a lot of, like, the salmon in the rivers, and so their population booming is, like, a problem for, like, the fishing industry, just for salmon health in general. And let's take a little sidebar. When you are from the Oregon coast, I don't know if this is, like, with Oregon in general, but I feel like we were really, like, hammered into our heads, like, salmon knowledge. Do you feel that?
I'm sure your salmon knowledge is better than my salmon knowledge. But like what? Give me an example.
I feel like elementary school and like early junior high, like I think the only thing that we were taught was about salmon. But like
I mean, I agree. Where it's like you're only really taught about like if we're gonna talk about fish, we're gonna talk about salmon.
Yeah, it's
or like
synonymous.
The ocean. It's
salmon. Yeah, ocean full of salmon. That's all it is.
Right. See, my education, it was not full.
It was salmon.
It was just salmon.
So I feel like we like raised salmon from eggs, like we had hatchlings, and then in my mind, we just pulled off the wayside near one of the rivers in town, and we just like took them by like the Dixie cup full and just kind of like threw them in. Good luck.
Right. Is this Oregon curriculum? Okay, people, weigh in. I don't know. Did you learn about salmon?
Do you even know what a salmon is? Is salmon real?
Okay. Also, I want to go back. At what point did you change your opinion, or have you always felt that sea lions were like rats?
That's a recent one because we have like a relative who works at Bonneville, and so he kind of talks. Bonneville's like a big dam, and so I remember he would tell us about like just the issues that sea lions pose.
Okay.
Well, also like in my mind, my mom has a lot of anger towards sea lions because when she was pregnant with me, they went into the sea lion caves outside of Florence.
Oh gosh.
And I just get told like how much it smelled, and maybe it like, permeated like that barrier between her pregnant stomach and me in the fetus, the fetal Jordan.
Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe. And then
you have like sea lion power.
Oh, half man, half sea lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're indestructible and you love salmon.
Oh my God. So the sea lions, so in Astoria, like they definitely gather more like northeast of town, like further along the Highway 101. But I feel like wherever we were staying at like your cousin's place, like we just heard them all night.
All day, all night. It was, it's like, we're going to stay at this house that they let us stay in. Like, oh, it's a beautiful evening. Going to open up the windows.
And then what you hear is, wait, do it with me.
No.
Bark like a sea lion.
Bark, 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 bark.
Bark, bark, bark. Wow.
I just feel like it's inappropriate for me to bark.
Is it like
the sea lion.
appropriation?
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right.
Sorry.
I don't want to
offend the population.
Right. Our listeners.
I think the sea lions really freaked our dog out.
Because we were like, oh, we're going to go on this nice walk. It's a beautiful evening. As we address, there's a pretty great river walk that just goes the whole length of Astoria, basically. And so we're walking our dog. And then all the nice lighting becomes a little more sparse. So I feel like it was kind of dark. And we went out to the dock. Because I guess there was just a ton of sea lions. I guess we thought we wanted to see them.
It was too dark. Well, we wanted to hear them.
It got so loud when we got closer. I just remember Pretzel was just like shaking. Pretzel's our dog.
She was on high alert.
Yeah. So then we decided maybe that wasn't great for her. And so we left. But it was loud. So if you're looking for a different experience to maybe freak out your dog or just yourselves,
Yeah, because it's too dark to see them, so you just hear the barks.
Mm-hmm.
Also with that area, I remember like I think somebody had just like recently like gutted a fish or something and threw it all away, and like some like fish gutting chute over there. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I feel like I should backtrack. I also want to be clear that we love our dog and we weren't purposely going out on the dock to freak her out. Okay.
Yeah, I was holding her like Rafiki holds Simba at the beginning of Lion King over the river at the Lion King, the Sea Lion Kings.
Oh my god.
Whoa. Disney, if you're listening, hook us up.
Sea Lion King. And there's definitely going to be like the story of a sea lion and a salmon, best friends.
Oh. And then he eats it.
Okay.
The salmon eats the sea lion.
The sea lion. Okay, forget it. Anyway.
It's taking a turn. So when was like one of the first times you went to Astoria that you remember?
I don't know if I went. I don't have a lot of memories growing up going up north. I feel like you usually go the other way, go south.
Oh,
but
you go to like Newport and Lincoln City?
that's what I think, or even like Walport.
What would you do in Waldport?
I think we rented a house with the cousins and aunt and uncles. Like,
Well, it has nothing to do with Astoria, so continue.
yeah. So I think in maybe high school or later, I think I took a trip with my grandparents. Like, they had invited us up. I think we went to the restaurant Baked Alaska.
Rest in peace, Baked Alaska.
Because they were very excited. It was a nice restaurant that was right there on the water.
Yeah, because part of the revitalization of Astoria, like they took a lot of these piers that are built along the river that were probably in like not great condition. They revitalized them, and then a lot of businesses went in there. And so it's a really, the trolley goes through there, the trolley, which is pretty special. You're kind of like on the pilings of the piers. I mean, it's a cool area. Like you get some good vibes out there.
Right.
So
you're like, hopefully this is sturdy, right? The cars, the trolley,
I mean, you can look underneath those like pilings and you can see the river, and you could I could drop my phone down there pretty easily, or all of my cash.
Wow. All the cash.
All the cash. So yeah, Baked Alaska was a restaurant. It closed during the pandemic, but I mean, it had a great view of the river. And so
Right. So that was probably my first time going, and then I've been, had gone back several times with my grandparents, just you and I, and then later, like a handful of years ago, maybe more now, my cousin's sister-in-law ended up doing her residency in Astoria, and so had ended up having like a house, and so they started going to Astoria, and I had all these Astoria ties.
It's so nice. My first time going to Astoria was during a football game my freshman year when
Oh, I forgot about that. I don't even count that because I guess I went to Astoria to play sports also.
Like in junior high or?
Maybe like basketball.
Okay. What was that like for you?
I don't remember because clearly I blocked it out. Like I couldn't even tell you where the high school is.
They might have moved it because that's like a big thing on the Oregon coast now is that, we've realized that maybe we should stop building all of our schools in the tsunami zone.
Right. Which is like so weird because in junior high, they're talking about like, oh, like the big one's coming and like all this stuff, which I guess it still is. So.
I mean, the high school is like just to the north of us, Neocani. Like depending on where you're at in the school, you get a great view of the ocean because you're across the street from it. But yes,
literally.
Seaside, Oregon, they just moved their high school up. And so they have this like large vacant building. And by large vacant building, it's a large vacant high school. And so I don't know where Astoria's was. But I remember, for me, I feel like the ride took forever getting up there because you're on the school bus. I'm surrounded by people I don't want to be around because I don't know why I played football to appease my family. Anyway, I don't have the body for it.
Oh,
well, I do now. Imagine me at 14.
I mean, I don't know. Looking at a football player, I'm like, oh, they got the body for it. That's never my first thought.
Well, all right. So we go up to Astoria and we're hanging out there. And I feel like I just remember being by a bunch of bushes and weeds. Like, I don't really remember where we were at. So that was my first pick of Astoria. Because I think we didn't really go into downtown. It was like a whole thing. So I didn't have a great first impression of Astoria.
Was Astoria a better sports team than us?
I think at times they were, and by us, Tillamook. I do think Tillamook, we held our own in a lot of athletics, but they were a rival. Them, Scappoose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who you are.
Yeah. But there was a boy who went to Astoria when we were in high school. His name is Jordan Poyer, and he is, I think, currently an NFL player. And he was like a super athlete, and so when he came, people would be like, "Oh my gosh, it's that guy!" He was like really good, and yeah, went to Oregon State. And then he got drafted.
Wow.
I think he got drafted.
I
He got
never
picked
had
up.
this reaction. Was he around?
Well, I mean, I think he definitely, his star got a lot brighter my senior year, so you were gone.
Oh, wow.
So when I think of Astoria athletics, I think of Jordan Poyer.
Great.
Because Astoria, they're the fishermen, and that was a big thing recently. Is that I think some students have been advocating to change the term fishermen to be more inclusive, like fisher people, fishers. But I think the term in the industry is just been accepted that if you're a woman, you're a fisherman.
Right.
If you're a man, you're a fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a dog, fisherman. If you're
Right.
a sea lion,
Fisherman.
fisherman.
But you're salmon.
Salmon.
Fish.
So do you have a memory of being up in Astoria when you were in like doing athletics?
No, I think just you saying that, right, it's like, whoa, my brain driving to Seaside, Astoria, just said it was going to be a long bus ride. And yeah, I just totally forgot about it because we did go up there quite a few times playing. I think basketball's the only thing that's really coming up for me. I don't know that I traveled with any other sports. Yeah, I've moved on. So
The next time that I remember going to Astoria is I went with a couple of my best friends at the time, and they needed to get like their marriage license figured out or something with like the name change because there's a social security office up in Astoria. And so this was a couple months before you and I got together. We all had like the day off, so we went up to Astoria, and I was like, Astoria, okay.
you're like, oh, it's a fisherman up here.
It's a bunch of fishermen. But going up there, like, I was so impressed with like how cool and funky it was. Like, I remember we went into like all these different shops, and I think it was like cargo. I think it was that business that we went into, because I just distinctly remember they had a big pile of those like little octopus fingers or like squid fingers you could put on yourself. And God, I was so satisfied. A whole 2 handfuls of squid fingers. I mean, I think I went from boy to man in that moment.
That's nice. And then you guys went to the film museum or something?
We did not. I've never been to the film museum.
I haven't either.
Which obviously we should go. There's a lot of good film and a lot of bad film that happens in Oregon.
Where does Goonies rank? Good or bad?
Goonies is good. Goonies is very good.
Okay,
I
what
give
about,
Goonies a thumbs up.
what about the cop movie?
Kindergarten Cop?
Yeah. So,
Kindergarten Cop also filmed in Astoria, or part of it. Kindergarten Cop, its star has dimmed for me considerably because the guy I worked with at the newspaper,
oh, right.
he talked like this, but he was not close to retirement. I thought he was like 75, but he was like 52. But he had aged quite a bit. He would quote some weird parts of Kindergarten Cop. He would always quote, "Boys have penises and girls have vaginas," which I don't know.
That's in the movie?
I don't know
Because you haven't seen it.
He would quote it though, and that's
God.
all I think about. Even if it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, if he was saying it, I would want to watch it. Anyway, so also part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time,
Oh, the worst one.
filmed in that area. Holy that's a terrible movie. That's such a bad movie, and I love Ninja Turtles.
I thought have we watched it?
Yes, and I fell asleep. It's so bad.
What happens?
Nothing. So
Okay.
Astoria, when we were up there about 10 years ago, we also went to the Goonies house. And so the Goonies filmed a lot on the North Oregon coast. There's also where that house that we were staying at, like that's technically in the film, like you can see it for a couple shots, but there is a house where like, the Goonies house takes place. And that's kind of it's outside of like downtown Astoria. It's more in like this like residential area of like these older homes. And so I don't know why the city or the state hasn't just purchased this home and turned that into a museum or like some Goonies memorabilia. It's a residential home. And for some reason, the people who live there hate all the tourists that show up. And I get it, like, if you get a home and you don't quite understand, like, the significance of the fact that this was in a movie that's beloved by people.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember in that time, like, whoever was owning it at that point, like, they covered the entire house in blue tarp over the summer so people couldn't see it, which is definitely the most, like, Oregon coast, like, weird flex I can think of to deter people. But I also think people were, like, driving up into, like, their driveway and stuff. And so now people just kind of, like, park anywhere and they walk up to the Goonies house. But when we went, the tarp was gone, but they had an upside down American flag flying. They had an Israeli flag flying. They had way too many Crocs on the porch than I thought was appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Also, lots of bleach. So I don't really know what was happening. It gave me some weird vibes. I don't know who owns it now. I think it is still residential.
So if you're in the market and you want to do something weird, look into the Goonies house.
Woo! I mean, what other types of things do you like to do in Astoria?
I feel like we have recently enjoyed going to Coffee Girl. Isn't that what it's called?
Oh yeah, right on the pier, one of the northernmost piers, or
Mhm.
eastern, northeastern.
Yeah, so we had like walked all the way down there, and you feel like you're gonna slip through the cracks. I mean, that's
And
where
lose
like
all your money.
yeah, the wood is space. Like my foot is gonna come down.
Yeah, because we took our dog walking across it. I'm like, is her paw gonna get stuck? And then if you're like walking across, because like we would just walk,
Mm-hmm.
and then when cars drive by, like you feel those pilings, like you feel them shift, and you're like, oh, is this all gonna come down?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So that was like a cannery too, and there's like some history. I mean, it's just kind of an interesting building and a cute little shop, and it's again like this. You're right on the water, and it's just
And we sat there,
nice.
and I wrote for a while, and you read, and we just watched like these big, like kind of industrial ships that were put down their anchor in the Columbia. And it was just like kind of mesmerizing to sit out there and watch these like giant ships just kind of like slowly float around their anchor. You're like, is it moving? Is it not moving?
Yeah, it's making me want to go to Astoria. It's good.
So something that I also really appreciate about Astoria is that they have done a really good job, whether that's the private industry, the public sector. They have done a really good job of educating you of like the historical significance of like the areas that you're in. So like you talked about Coffee Girl. I think part of that was, I could be wrong, was it like a World War II thing? Like they had a bunch of women working in the canneries, and so
Right.
they would like,
Mhm.
there was something like that.
Right. It was very like Rosie the Riveter kind of vibe.
Right.
And yeah, but you should just go and see for yourself. And
And then like like each of these piers have a different name, and like as you go, like they'll tell you like a little bit about each area that you're in. And I think that's something really special about preserving that history.
oh, you know what else? Switching gears, a reason we went to Astoria quite a bit. This is before the cousins had the house. We would go up there to go to the Columbian Theater. I mean, I feel like we did that so often.
They have so like that little like block of buildings. I think they're all owned by the same person, but it's like the Voodoo Room, the Colombian Cafe, which is not Colombian, it's Colombian, the river.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those old things are all like really funky, fun businesses. But yeah, the Colombian. So what do you like about the Colombian Theater?
I like what was a fun, funky date for us. So they play movies that are about ready to
It's like
come out.
second run movies.
Right. And so in that moment, it was, I think, one of the first times we had been to like a fun theater that, yeah, was like a little cheaper to go.
It was
And
significantly cheaper. It was like $4 or something to go to these.
I think they had, it was just like food and drinks, and it was just a nice, fun vibe. And we would go upstairs, which I think was the 21 and over.
Yeah,
Maybe there was couches or something.
there's definitely lots of couches. And just like, eclectic, just like they bought some furniture, found furniture, was given furniture. And it's just like all up there. You can get like food and drinks up. And I think we definitely watched Frozen. One of our 7 times we watched Frozen was in the Colombian Theater. And we definitely took friends and we watched Justice League there also. And I fell asleep because Justice League was horrendous.
Sorry.
I'm not sorry. It was horrendous. I'm sticking by that. It was terrible. But yeah, so it was, we would just go up there and we'd go shopping at like the Astoria Co-op, which is a really cool little shop, and ending up at the theater at the end of the night. And so we'd get our date was we would get done with the movie. We would leave and try to hit Dutch Bros before they closed, because that Astoria Dutch Bros was very good for a very long time. We haven't been recently. And so we'd always hit up that Dutch Bros, and then that'd fuel us for our 2-hour drive home.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And then we have to talk about the Astoria column.
Which you can see it as you drive in to Astoria. Like, if you look, like, Astoria's got, like, it's got a lot of hills. Like, it's very, like, steep incline kind of area.
Almost like San Francisco-y.
I was almost going to say that, yeah.
Like, right. Like, to go to the column.
Very, 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 very small San Francisco.
Yes, yes.
Mini San Francisco. Very small. Very small San Francisco.
Better San Francisco. So, anyway. Yeah, I feel like driving up to the column is, like, make sure your car can make it up the hill.
I also appreciate that in Astoria they have, like, they've spray painted, like, kind of an icon of what the column would look like. It looks kind of like a lighthouse, but they spray it on the street, and it shows you, like, which direction to go, so you're not, like, aimlessly, like, popping around, like, the residential areas.
Right, because you are just, like, cruising through the neighborhood, going up and up and up, and then you eventually make it, and it's just beautiful and extravagant. And we have recently discovered the trail. Remember, we took some, like, random trail that ended up at the column.
Yeah, it's the trail that's around, like, the cathedral tree.
Oh, that's a good one.
We'll talk about that. But when you go up to the column, like, you get this beautiful view of the
Columbia River.
The Columbia River, Young's Bay, which is right there. And the column itself, like, I wish that I did a little bit of research to tell you more about, like, what the purpose of the column was. But it kind of charts, like, the history of, like, the Lewis and Clark expedition, I think some native people. But when you go into the inside of the column, there's, like, a spiral staircase that takes you all the way up. And I think it's a couple hundred steps to get up there. And when you get up, there's, like, this big viewing platform with, thankfully, like a chest-high gate to keep you from falling because you're very high up. But yeah, up there, it's, like, absolutely breathtaking, and it's, like, so pretty. We took Ellen, our Belgian friend, up there once, and it was just, like, completely socked in foggy, and it was like, well, you can see some river out there. It's, just squint.
But definitely worth it.
They definitely sell, like, those little, like I think it's balsa wood or something, like little balsa wood, like, planes, and you could, like, toss them up top, and be like, oh, look, it's all plane. But there's also a part on the Columbia River. If you take the time to, like, look at the mural, because it's a huge, beautiful mural all the way up, it depicts, like, that story. But I think there's one point where Lewis and Clark met a native tribe, and they really liked their canoes. And so I think the story was they were trying to, like, barter with them to, like, see if they'd buy the canoes. But I think when the native tribe, like, fell asleep, they stole them.
Oh.
I think that's what happened.
I mean, I heard it here first. Lewis and Clark made some questionable decisions, I think.
They're both kind of screwed up. I mean, anyway.
That's another pod.
So the column. What else you got about the column?
I mean, that's really about it for me. I think that we're just here to tell you that we have been many times and enjoy it and would recommend that for people that have never been.
So, yeah, we've taken a lot of people to the column. I think we've taken my brother, my mother on separate times.
I think we've taken a lot of people to Astoria.
Yeah.
So clearly we have Astoria love if this isn't coming across.
We would have moved to Astoria. I almost got a job. Well, I did get a job working at their newspaper, but it paid as much as, like, the one. I think it paid less than the one in Tillamook, which was very surprising. And we have a very good rent situation right now in Tillamook. So it was like, dang it. Yeah, I do kind of regret, like, just not doing it, just being up in Astoria.
It's not too late. You never know.
Aww.
Okay, I have another memory of, like, coming down from the column. We're cruising through the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden there's, like, that deer.
Oh, there's a bunch of deer.
And then all of a sudden the deer's, like, squatting like I've never seen it before, and it's just, like, peeing in the road. Do you remember this?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? And it's just this natural thing. Again, grew up on a dairy farm. I've seen lots of animals go to the bathroom, but I'd never seen a deer take a whiz.
Take a whiz.
I haven't used that phrase in a hot minute.
That reminds me of the Parks and Rec episode where Leslie Knope's like, the Whiz Palace. So I've never seen a deer use the Whiz Palace either. But that was really strange. It was, like, surreal. Like, I felt like the world kind of shifted for me when we watched that happen.
I think Astoria shifted for me. I was like, wow, what happens here?
So other things about Astoria, you talked about the cathedral tree. And so Astoria, it's very green. So it is like a larger city in terms of, like, the Oregon coast. but it's still very like a lot of green spaces. And so there's a trail that takes you to a tree called the cathedral tree. And it was because of like kind of like the shape of how the tree has grown. It kind of looks like the windows of a cathedral. Again, that could be completely wrong. To me,
Yeah. We're not claiming to be spewing facts.
yeah, we're spewing experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we went there, and the cathedral tree is really cool. I mean, it's not as cool as the big tree in Rockaway.
Whoa, we're not talking about that.
Oh, sorry, we don't compare trees.
No.
This is not a tree
it's
comparison.
Beautiful on its own. I do think it was really.
And there's like a nice bench. We could look at it.
Yeah, it was extravagant. I liked it.
And then I think there was like a boardwalk that we could go on. And there was like, I think some good Samaritan at one point had taken like a piece of like chalk or something, had written like cathedral tree and like put it an arrow.
Right, because apparently people got lost. I feel like we would have gotten lost if somebody hadn't done that.
Yeah, but I think instead of writing cathedral tree, it looked like they'd written like catheter tree. Like it wasn't, they had misspelled it. It might have been a kid. Who knows?
Could have been me.
But then the other path you can take takes you up to the column. So one of the times we just decided to walk up to the column, and that was like a decent walk, but you definitely feel like you're coming out of the woods into civilization for the first time, because it just kind of like the trail just ends and there you are like at the parking area of the Columbia Tower, or the Astor column. You're like, ah.
Yeah.
But speaking of Whiz Palace, I remember you took a Whiz Palace while you were there, and I had to like watch the trail
On the trail.
But then someone came up
No.
when I was turned around.
I was like, oh, thanks. Thanks
Yeah.
for that.
And
Good looking out.
The lady was like, "Oh no, it's cool."
Yeah,
So we all became friends that day.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one.
So something else with Astoria is that every Sunday, that's not entirely true. I don't know if it's every Sunday, but it's definitely like, especially during the summertime, the Sundays in Astoria like completely transform because it becomes this gigantic farmers market, like bigger than you expect for a town the size of Astoria.
I don't know if they call it just like a farmer's market, because it's just like the Sunday market, and they have like a bunch of crafts and like wares. Like, I mean, that's probably what the cruise ships are coming for.
Yeah, they're docking for the Sunday market.
We went, I think we've been one time.
I think we've been twice.
Okay, we've been 2 times.
We've purchased once.
One time we got a candle. I think we have I think I have an issue with these markets because I feel bad. It's like I want to buy it all, but then I can't buy it all. And obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious, but we like to connect and talk to people as if we're enjoying the conversation, but we don't want to buy their stuff.
Then we end up buying their stuff.
I don't know. It's like it's too much.
It's too intimate.
It's too emotionally upsetting to me to not buy all their things.
You're the queen of empathy. I don't have a problem with going up and like having a good time. Like, I've given you the gift of like some silly shenanigans. Good day to you. Maybe you've been energized to sell your wares better.
I mean, I agree with that, but just a little bit in the back of my mind, I'm like, ooh, sorry.
You know, and they're like talking it up, and you're like, oh, that does sound like a good candle. Sure, I will buy it.
So there we go.
But yeah, I mean, there's like some little like plaza-y areas in Astoria where they set up, and it goes down the streets, you know, kind of like shuts a sector of downtown Astoria down for that.
I mean, yeah, you think it was like 3 blocks? I'm not even sure. Maybe it's
Three,
more.
3 seems really small for what I'm picturing.
Okay, well, you just have to go and check it out.
And
let us know.
Not that we really want to sit here and advocate for all the businesses that we like to go to in Astoria, but I mean, the businesses that popped up like really helped revitalize Astoria, and I think Fort George is a really good example of a brewery, restaurant,
Bakery.
Just anything that you could ever imagine Fort George offers. And I think they went into an old historic building because has Astoria burned down before? Or like, was there like things that have happened?
I was thinking there was a fire, but again, I don't know. We don't have that information.
We don't live in Astoria, you freaks.
So, whoa. So maybe not.
But
Again, this is not about facts.
But Fort George is like really expanded, and they have like purchased like other like neighboring buildings. Like one I think was like a car showroom or something that had gone up as like the Lavelle tap room. I think that was something. Fort George representatives, feel free to call and like let us know what's happening.
Other Astoria enthusiasts be like, you guys,
you got it all wrong. But yeah, I mean, they have like a view of the of the river. I know they'll have music. We just had like a really good time there. It's like a really fun vibe. And I also think there's other breweries in town. I mean, Astoria is definitely like a town where like alcohol is like flowing.
Yeah. Well, and also dispensaries. I feel like there's plenty of. Our favorite dispensary that we've never been to, but every time we drive by it, I'm like, it's called Hi.
HI.
HI. And it just feels very friendly, and it welcomes us every time we come into town.
And then down in Astoria, there's also my favorite dive bar in the world. It's called the Maritime because maritime, it's a play on words, like maritime, like out on the water, but they spell it Mary, Merry. And so when you go in, it is like a Christmas themed like bar.
It's really cheerful, I would say.
But then there's one more because we also have a connection to like, a really small like burgery joint kind of place. Like back when we were growing up, there was a place called Swiss Chalet, which was beloved. Our friends' families bought the business and then sold it to a bank because they love to have businesses and sell them to banks.
This is a sore subject.
I know. So the Swiss Chalet was a really cool place. There's a place there's a place all over the coast that have that, but in Astoria they have Custard King.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Custard King?
I do. I don't remember if we got a burger from there.
No, I don't even know if they have burgers.
Yeah,
I know
don't know.
they've got custard. And so they do soft serve custard. And I remember we got a cone of it. And it was good, but it was also completely hollow. Like it was just like, it was just like completely hollow, like rope of custard.
So definitely worth checking out.
And it's cute. I mean, it was a really cute like sign.
Aw. And it's like by the bow picker. Bow? Bow?
Bow.
Bow picker? Yeah, the bow
Which
picker.
is really good, like tuna fish and chips or whatever they've caught.
Okay.
So this is the thing with Astoria. And for a long time, speaking of west of the Rockies, I think they had the oldest JCPenney west of the Rockies.
I know we'd gone to it a couple times, but it's gone now.
We got it the day after we got engaged, and I got you some boots because we were sick. And we got you some boots.
I know. Did I need boots? Was this like a...
No, they were like, I mean, they weren't leather boots, but they were kind of like
on sale
in that family. No, it was a nice pair of boots.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is now gone. R.I.P. But yeah, if once you go into downtown Astoria, there's like so many like cute little shops.
The Liberty Theater, which we've never been.
Ever. We almost have gone, but it's a really, really interesting building. And that's it too. Like in Tillamook, like with the coastal weather, like you have these buildings that are like old brick buildings that are like beautiful, but because of the corrosive properties of living so close to the Pacific Ocean and our climate, they've put like tin siding on all these buildings. And so you kind of destroy part of that and you make the town look more like pre-industrial chic. I don't know. But Astoria, I don't know what they've done, but I think if they had done that at some point, I don't remember, but they just have their buildings just look really nice.
Okay, well, this is definitely a sidebar. So yesterday, Tillamook ice cream was on sale for 98 cents. And so Jordan had to go in and get us 2 cartons.
Yeah, because it was a maximum of 2. So yeah, I take get 2.
Oh, it was only...
You can only get 2.
Only 2? Okay, so as I was sitting there, you ran in to get ice cream. I looked to the left, and between Safeway and U.S. Bank is that large, super large, kind of beautiful brick building.
I think it's CenturyLink.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm like, did that have tin on it? Like, I have no memory of this building. I'm like, oh, it's kind of unfortunate that they're in there. But anyway.
That's a lot of buildings in Tillamook. You're like, why are you here, Gene?
Yeah. So anyway, I was just, and I started thinking about Astoria, and so
Astoria is never far from our minds.
I know. All right. So what else you got to say?
The Liberty Theater, we almost went to a concert there once, but something else about Astoria too is that they are a very inclusive community, or at least make attempts to have different populations feel included. And so throughout the year, there's all these different events that are going on. Like I'm thinking specifically, like I think Astoria has a really good Pride festival that they do, and it always makes me really jealous because I feel like Tillamook just can't. And we sit here and complain about it, but are you and I like organizing that? We're not. But I think that's something that you and I attempt to do, is that we go out into the world and we see how all these other cities, all these other countries, places do things to like get people involved. And so we have all this like knowledge, but we haven't like put it into practice. Anyway, Astoria's doing a great job. They also have ScanFest, which is a Scandinavian festival. And one year we were going up to Vancouver, BC for my birthday, and we hung around Astoria for a little bit. We went and got lunch, but then there was like that amazing like, were they Swedish or Finnish? Were they Danish? It was a Scandinavian.
They were singing right?
Yeah, they were in the Blue Scorcher, which is down in the Fort George building.
Yeah, they were just playing instruments and singing, and it was really, really nice. There is, I mean, if you take nothing else away from this podcast, and by this podcast, this episode, is Astoria is worth the visit. It's a very interesting area, and I think that there's something for everyone there. And that's if you are, well, this isn't going to sound good, high end or low end or whatever. Like,
Wow.
well, you know, just like your style. Like if you're wanting something kind of fancier, if you want something kind of like grungier or like just more low key, and maybe that's the term, more low key or more
High key.
great. All right, you guys, whatever. And yeah, I just think that Astoria is beautiful, and it's not far from a bunch of other things. Like, right, definitely worth it to drive across this beautiful bridge.
It's so long.
That seems to go on forever. And then you're in Washington, and I think there's like that, like a few state parks nearby. And what's the shipwreck?
Of the Peter Iredale.
Yeah.
That's technically like in Warrenton.
All right,
in
all right,
that
all
area,
right.
Fort Stevens State Park.
See, there's too many things to talk about.
But yeah, there is. If we're going to talk about the Peter Iredale, there is a shipwreck that you can see during like low tides. It wasn't like, there's not a crazy story. I think it was like a merchant ship and it just like sank. Like, oh, well, that's too bad. And it kind of got buried.
Mm-hmm.
There's more interesting ships out there. But it's a cool name to say.
Peter Iredale. Oh, and the Columbia Fairgrounds is there. We've been to the fair.
Clatsop County Fairgrounds.
Clatsop County Fairgrounds.
So yeah, we went to the Clatsop County Fair a few years ago, and that was a trip.
That was fun.
It was fun. It was interesting to go to like a different. We tried to go to like other county fairs, like see what they're doing.
I've also been to like their feed store or something. Where did we go?
Yeah, it was like a feed store, but also like a plant shop.
All
It was
right.
definitely like a co-op plant shop feed store type thing, and we got some roses.
Okay, we are getting way off.
Getting in the weeds.
What do you want to say?
Man, I love Astoria.
All right, let's hear it.
So something that I wish that we would do in the future is that I really feel like we should probably go to the Maritime Museum at some point because of how important that is to like just the lifeblood and history of Astoria. We've never gone. It's a really interesting looking building, and I've heard really good things about it. The other thing, completely sidebar about this, is that do you know that they like take helicopters to fly people over the Columbia Bar? Like they have like special captains that like help guide these ships over the bar out into the ocean.
Oh, no, but I'm not surprised.
Because the dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the other thing that I would like to do in the future that I would like to do differently about Astoria is that one day I want to go to the Festival of the Dark Arts Festival.
Yeah.
Festival of the Dark Arts Festival.
I got it.
Festival season.
So this is a
It's in February.
and is it all about dark beers?
So it's like a stout festival, but they all, they lean into that idea of dark arts. And so there's like tarot card readings, there's fire dancers. I think they have like magicians, but it's like it takes over Astoria for one magical day. Voldemort's there.
Great.
He who must not be named.
Wow.
Is there something that you would like to do differently in the future with our relationship to Astoria?
I think it'd be fun to ride the trolley, which we've never done, and maybe stay like downtown.
Ooh, something we've never done before.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like that's the thing. A lot of the stuff that we've done, it's usually like, okay, we're here for the day, and then we're driving home, and then yeah, that time that we stayed at the cousin's house, they live way out of town, and so I mean, you're not right there in the thick of it. And yeah, there's just a lot going on, and it would be fun to be there for a festival. I too want to go to this museum that we have danced around. We've been outside a lot, like looked in. So yeah, I mean, like, even though we've spent a lot of time in Astoria, there's still lots to do and see and experience.
Because I do think the trouble with Astoria for us is that it is within distance of a day trip, but it's also like just in the length of a day trip that is maybe inaccessible at that point.
Yeah. Oh, if anyone's been to the Bosnian restaurant,
Oh my
I don't even want to
God!
talk about it because there's going to be some like enthusiast. The owner's going to be listening. I don't even want to like tell the story full out. I just want to give the notes. which is basically we have a weird time, and then Georgia, at the end is like, she's like, oh, I knew that it was going to be a hot mess, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Or she knew it was going to be like really good or really bad.
She had read the mixed reviews, and we definitely had an experience.
So yeah, favorite food, favorite experience in Astoria. Factually, like anything that we got very wrong about Astoria, feel free to key us in on some of those things. Favorite movie based or set in Astoria? Drop us a line.
Ooh, good one.
Yes, shoot us a DM or like comment on a post or something. Email us, send a messenger pigeon, scream to the skies.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
those.
Or just go to Astoria.
Again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast and to get a sense of our experience in Astoria. We're excited to talk next week about another weird experience that we had in Europe. This was a time where we ended up in the Dolomites, and so we were in near Bolzano in northern Italy.
It's a good one.
So we'll see you next week.
Ciao. Bark, 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 bark.
3, 2, 1.
Astoria.
Oh,
Sorry.
Were you possessed by Rihanna?
I just really felt it, but then I got probably too close to the microphone.
No, you can never be too close. See? I'm in the microphone.
Astoria. I don't know what that was.
Astoria!
Whoa.
I dropped my pen.
I'm getting nervous.